meditating, do I take a sip of my celery juice or talk to you first? So if you don't mind, I'm going to do that. Mm. Okay, you guys, I want to talk to you about having hard conversations and trusting yourself. So if you want to be a leader that creates freedom everywhere, you have to look at what's not working in your life and what's not working inside your business, and have the honest conversations that that sometimes you don't necessarily want to do. So as I've grown my company, one of the things that I've recognized is that, you know, when you're working with a group of people, there's very rare, and I learned this actually from the owner of Infusionsoft, that it's very rare that people will grow multiple different stages with you. So typically, like, two stages is typically the like two stages of growth inside your business, even inside your life, can be really challenging for people to be able to transform into the next stage of life, the next stage of business. The reason why I'm bringing this up is because I see this all the time with our clients. They start with working with contractors, and then they move to working with employees. That jump is like a huge jump. Like when you move from contractor to employee, I recommend that you do that as soon as possible, because it's because you become part of the same movement together when people are not just contractors. So when people are operating as contractors, think about it for a second. You can have a contractor as your gardener. You can have a contractor that comes in and works a project with you that's high level, like a super high level contractor. But what happens is there's always an end to that unless there's an evolution. No different than when you're dating. When you're dating, at some point in the dating process, there's typically an evolution. Do we move in together? Do we get engaged? Do we get married? Do we have kids? Some variation of that. Do we, even if people don't want to get married and that's part of their vision, then there's still an evolution that happens at some point. And if we don't have that evolution that happens, then what happens is there's usually typically breakdowns that we're not willing to look at or not willing to have hard conversations with. So think about it. Have you ever dated somebody for a long period of time and couldn't get yourself to the point where it was time to get engaged or move in together because there was just something that wasn't working? Well, it's the same thing with growing your team inside of a business. You have to trust yourself. If you're going to be a leader that creates freedom for yourself and creates freedom for other people, because the game of entrepreneurship is not just about you, it's actually about other people as well. One of the things that I've learned is typically when someone is unhappy working inside my company, usually we'll have an open and honest conversation. And what I'm looking for is, what is the thing that they want and can I deliver it to them? And a lot of times it's no. A lot of times there is not a way that I can deliver it to them. And then there's another group of times where it's yes. So for instance, there was a woman who worked with me years ago. I love her. And she really had that pull to be an entrepreneur. Well, obviously, like at that stage in my company, I didn't have the room for her to be able to flourish the way she could have as an entrepreneur inside a company, which becomes an entrepreneur. And so, but she had this really big pull that it was like, it didn't matter really how much money she made. What mattered is that she wanted to be recognized. She wanted to be the entrepreneur that was recognized. So she actually wanted to be famous. And there's an interesting scenario that that Roland said at Digital Marketer once. He said, last year, he said, you really have to understand, do you want to be rich or do you want to be famous? I think that's such an important question. Like, do you want to be rich or do you want to be famous? Because there's a lot of entrepreneurs out there, especially with today's day and age with lives and, you know, marketing and events and all of these type of things, that they love to be famous and be the face person. Like they look and see, how many likes did I get? How many shares did I get? How many comments did I get? And they're addicted to that. Well, that's like the addiction of being somewhat famous. Watch the conversation inside you and make a decision on what you want to be. Because if you want to be famous, you could go partner with somebody else who's a way better marketer than you to blow up the company and you be the face of the company. I've never wanted to be famous. I've actually loved the idea of sharing my platform with other powerhouses that can teach and train. And we're doing that currently right now. We just merged with another company, Chris Smith, and we're bringing a whole storytelling aspect. I mean, it's hard to work on stages when you don't know how to tell your story, or when you have to retell your story over and over and over again. I've hired a lot of people. And one thing I can tell you for sure, I was really tired of having to hire someone like that every time I had a presentation to do. And so when I found Chris, it was like, oh, and I was going to promote him to our clients anyway, because he's off the charts, but then we merged together as a company together. So I'll share the platform with them. So you'll see him, you'll see me, you know, and like, so you got to know, like, what is your vision, right? And you have to know, the people around you, the people in your personal life, what is their vision? The people in your business that work inside the company, what is their vision? And you have to know this, and you have to, my experience is, have a check-in at least once a year to be able to see if that vision is still accurate and working. When people are unhappy, usually you're unhappy, right? Usually you've got both sides that are unhappy in some way or the other. However, there is the moments in time where you think everything's great, and then you find out that somebody is unhappy inside of your life or your business. I'm going to just venture to, or go out on a limb and say, instead of making the intention about just taking care of yourself, whether it's with your personal life or in your business, what if, and this is something that honestly I can tell you, Chris, who used to work for me, the one who had the pull to be an entrepreneur, she's out there being an entrepreneur now. I don't know if she necessarily is super completely fulfilled in that area. I don't know. But I do know that every time we're around, we talk about the days when she was here, or, there's always an open door for her to come back because she was phenomenal and still checking it out. But I can't solve that. I can't solve that vision. So we parted ways, but I went in and had the hard conversation. Do you know what I mean? I went into Chris and said, Chris, I love you. You're doing a good job, but I can sense that you're not totally happy. And I had the conversation, and I didn't try and sway her towards me. I said, look, if you've got that pull to go be an entrepreneur and that calling, you should go check it out. You know what I mean? You should go check it out. And, if you want to stay here, here's what I think your trajectory would look like. And then I gave her a nice lump sum of cash to take care of her. And she went off, and she, just to kind of float a couple months for her, she went off and she started her own company, back up to her own company with network marketing, right? So that was me putting somebody else first before me. What I've experienced is your life and your business will grow much faster, and everybody will be a much more congruency if you can actually look out. There's a book called The Go-Giver, and it actually talks about this. Really make your life be focused on helping other people before helping yourself. And I know that sounds like a cliche, but when I figured this out and trusted it, then I started to trust myself. I started to trust that when things aren't working in our lives, when there's another person connected to it, there's a rub or a reason, and it's time for change. And if you can honor that and not be afraid, you can't be afraid of a relationship ending, whether it's personal or whether it's business. Now, that doesn't mean there's not a grieving process. There's always a grieving process, but you can't be afraid of that. Because if you don't go in and have the hard conversation now, what you're going to find is you're going to waste years of your life. And ladies, the one thing I know about women is we hate to waste time. We hate it. We have a natural biological clock, whether you're having children or not. We have a connection to time that is different than men do. We have a different connection. And so we hate to waste time. When a relationship doesn't work, and we've let it drag for a long period of time, we feel like we've wasted time in our life. And so for ladies and men, you've got to go in and have these hard conversations. So my question to you is, do you have a hard conversation in your life right now that you need to have? And if you do, I'm going to share with you to first get yourself grounded in seeking to find out what's important to the other person. Set your intention of what needs to happen. Whether, you're going to put this relationship back on track or whether you're going to let this relationship go. No matter what your decision is on either of those fronts, before you go into that conversation, find out what the other person needs. Find out what would make them happy. If you have a conversation right now in your life like this, I'm just curious, just type, yes, I have a conversation. I have a hard conversation in my life right now that I need to have. Type that into the chat, type that, yes, oh, from Germany. Hi. Sorry, as I digress. Type that in. Yes, I have a conversation. I'm curious. How many people have conversations right now that you have to have that are hard? I'm really curious to see. Okay, good. So I'm seeing there's people who are having some hard conversations. Okay, so they're hard. They're challenging to go have because we suspect often there's some level of conflict that's going to come right now. And it doesn't have to be that way. I mean, I can't say that the person in front of you isn't going to get upset about something. But what I've learned is when people genuinely feel like you have their best interests at heart, that they're able to hear you and shift. So you can make your decision on where you're going in a relationship, but you still have to have the hard conversation. They're two different things. Where are you going in the relationship? What's your intention? And then the hard conversation is the thing that you're going to have to go in and confront. But it doesn't have to be confrontational. It actually can be like you're confronting yourself more than anything else to go in and have the hard conversation. But I've found that I used to avoid them, and I haven't avoided them for a very, very long time, because I always seek to understand what the other person needs first, and then I look to make them happy. If there's a way, and I've never found that I've walked into a conversation that there wasn't a way that I could make them happy. So you can't always provide what other people want, but what you can provide is a space to listen. What you can provide is good advice. What you can provide is a connection to another relationship. What you can provide is love. What you can provide is generosity, honesty, caring, and still be able to have the hard conversations that things aren't working out or you'd like them to be working out differently. So as you're walking through your day today, if you are one of the people who said, yes, I have a hard conversation in my life that I still haven't had, and that hard conversation could be letting somebody go. It could be, asking somebody to step up. It could be maybe somebody is not operating at a certain standard that they need to be operating inside your life or your relationship. Or it literally could be having a conversation with your spouse that you're starting a business or you're shutting down a business. And so you look at what is this hard conversation. And if you go into it today, I promise you're going to feel a lot lighter tomorrow. You're going to feel a lot lighter by the end of the day. It's a thing that weighs on you, that if you don't lift it off, you have no idea how much bandwidth that's taking out of your space. So I know this is probably not the sweet and sexy Coffee with Shanda, the really fun, woohoo, but it is a conversation we need to be having. Because if you have a hard conversation that you haven't had yet inside your life, I know it is sucking the life out of you. So here's to you showing up powerfully, not reactional, setting an intention to make the other person feel great, the other person actually know how to actually move to their next level, their next step to find happiness, and that you're a part of that versus a part of a breakdown, breakup, or whatever, even if that is the decision you go to, meaning that it's time to leave the relationship. So that's it. That is Coffee with Shanda today. Again, not a sexy conversation, but one we need to have. All right, you guys, I'll see you tomorrow morning on 7 a.m. Coffee with Shanda. I'm heading now to go do my workout. That's why I'm all worked out, set. I'm going to do my Orange Theory this morning. So here's to you working out too. I'll talk to you soon.